Hi, Scott. I'm Laura Patterson, and I am the founder and president of VisionEdge Marketing, a 25-year-old growth strategy consulting firm here in Austin, Texas. What we do is we help our customers grow. In 1999, on the premise that one needed to have good insights from data to make better decisions, have operational excellence and good measures, and be focused, hyper-focused on strategy from a customer-centered perspective, those were like deer in the headlight words. I mean, they really were deer in the headlight words. Now everybody uses them, but back then it was definitely kind of new frontier. I wish our customers and people in general were more curious about their customers. Curiosity is really important to be customer centric. You have to ask questions of your customers if you want to be customer centric rather than sort of assuming. So even though people think they're highly customer centric today because they think they know, they assume they know. They don't typically ask. And the things they think they know sometimes are not very actionable. For example, how many times have you filled out a little survey that says, how did you feel about this transaction today on a scale of 1 to 5? 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, 1-star. So let's say you get a 2-star. How actionable is that? What can you do with that? Even if you give them a little feedback, well, for whatever it was, it's not very actionable. Or how satisfied were you? So being more curious is really important to the process of being more customer centric.
So is your thesis that you like, forget all that, let's just go ask your customer exactly what they want? Or how are you kind of doing around that, or using a little bit of both?
Yeah, you have to do a little bit of both. I mean, you can't ignore the data sources. When you have a lot of data internally, right, you have a lot, whether it's from your CRM system or your email automation system or your social media, you have a lot of data externally, whether that's research through a trade association. Almost all of our customers are B2B, so they're members of trade associations or other networks. Lots of external data, from third-party research. So you want to be able to marry that, but you also want to ask. And then you want to, and sometimes, the goal of every business is to create customer and business value. That's the goal of every business. And to find the right balance between those two things. You can't create customer value at the expense of business value for too long, or you'll go out of business. And if you create business value at the expense of customer value, you're going to go out of business. So it's finding that right balance. And that's really one of the things that we try to help our customers do, is find that balance.
Like, who was your first client and how did you kind of get them?
Great question. Okay, a little bit of history. I'm in Austin, Texas, and I've been here since 1982. So in 1982, I came here to work in technology for a company that maybe some people have heard of, Motorola, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So I came here to work for that company. I was already working in a technology startup company, was one of the reasons they hired me. And I was here for a while before 1999 and had begun to build a pretty good reputation. Austin was a different town back then. We were smaller. We were more networked. We were more connected. Along the way, Austin got on the map, because in 1982, we weren't on the map. Getting people to come here was hard, but a couple things happened along the way, a couple of entities. One was Semitech and the other was MCC. And those entities created a whole spark of new industry in Austin. And so in 1999, if you could spell marketing, you could get a job. And my phone began to ring from people who were looking for people to take on their marketing in their company. And that led to me thinking, oh, this might be a good time to be an entrepreneur. So I converted those first job offers into customers. And all of them were really trying to leverage my background as a operations, data science, and measurement and customer centricity. They were already kind of a key part of what people knew about me and with the work that I had done because of my career. And so I just parlayed that into VisionEdge Marketing.
At this point in time, is it just you?
Actually, a co-founder, his wife gets a very aggressive form of breast cancer. And so we're trying to scramble. Customers are going out of business. The world is upside down. He's upside down. So he basically says to me, you're kind of on your own, kid. He was quite a bit older than me. And he said, if you want to carry on, but I've got to go find better health insurance, right? And so I just basically thought, well, everything's imploding. If it's going to implode, there's no point in trying to just hang it up. So instead, we were one of the first ones to actually go remote into a company. We got rid of our offices.
What year
Yes,
is this?
2001. We wanted to survive, thrive, and serve. And having an office wasn't necessary to being able to achieve those things. So we jettisoned the office and all the things that went with it and the expense that went with it and began the journey to remote. Now, back then, there weren't anywhere near the capabilities of doing that as we have today. And we would still have, and still do have regular get-togethers in person, right? But then when COVID came, the whole world turned upside down again, right? And so our team actually got very distributed. Instead of being all in Austin, it's one thing to be all in Austin working remotely. It's another thing to
Right.
have people spread all over the country working remotely. And that is a lot more challenging. So we work with very large enterprises, typically not at the high corporate level, but within a business unit, typically, if it's a really large company. It would be a member of the C-suite. Typically, it's the CEO that we are working with, or the chief strategy officer, or the chief growth officer. Those would be titles of inside an organization. They are typically B2B. They are typically manufacturing or technology or logistics or life science customers, because those kinds of companies have complex products that require a different kind of buying journey from their customers. And they have to be very aware of the customer buying journey and the value proposition, because it's a much more complicated consultative type of sell and marketing. And therefore, the strategies have to be different than you are when you go through the checkout line and decide you want to buy, or do you want to buy that chocolate bar, right? And you're going right. I don't know if you've ever seen that in the grocery store, but you go by and you're like, oh, that does look kind of tempting. Do I want to spend $5 on that chocolate bar? You didn't like it, it's $5, but you can't really do that when you're betting your company on a particular technology or a solution. But we do onboard our customers. We have a whole process around that. We try to drink our own champagne, so to speak. We try to tell our customers that they need good processes. So we try to make sure we have good processes. We try to work from data. We try to make sure we have our performance measures in place that are customer centric. We don't always drink our champagne as well as we want our customers to, but we do try to do the same things we ask them to do. So the first question I always ask somebody is, what is it you're trying to achieve? And what would success look like when you achieve it? Because what does that look like? What brought you to this conversation? Sometimes they'll come and they'll say, I want to do A, B, and C. And they'll know what
Right.
they want. And I'll say, okay, great. And the reason you want to do that is, right? I want to be clear. What is the expectation? What do they think it's going to do for them? And what other options, I might say, what other options have you explored? What other ideas did you have? Again, back to being curious, asking questions. Don't just automatically assume an answer. So try to ask good questions. When I am talking with our customers or talking in a speaking engagement, I often will say to the people in the room, do you know what success is for your customers? Raise your hand if you unequivocally know what success is for your customers, right? And it's not 100% of those people raising their hand unequivocally know what success is for your customers. And then second, do you know what it is they value and what it is they value from you? So these are just three kind of key questions. And a lot of times, if you don't know the answer to those, it's kind of hard to get moving forward. Well, that's for us too. We try to ask those very same questions when we're onboarding or working with a prospect. So we too use the concept of a one good idea meeting. We promise that if you come have a conversation for free, you get one good idea, out of that conversation. So similar to thinking to what you do, there is complexity. We see chief marketing officers reach out to us predominantly when they are trying to figure out how to measure the value of marketing. And that is an area where I have been very passionate. I've kind of considered one of the pioneers of marketing performance management. Not performance management, that's been an industry around a long time, but really how to measure marketing. And again, back in 1999, there was an excellent article written by Christine Moorman and some folks on measuring marketing. And it really resonated with me around the work I had already been doing in my corporate career. And that actually led to the beginnings of the work we do around marketing performance management, MPM. And so CMOs are under tremendous pressure, right? They're given money to invest on behalf of the company, and then they are asked, what did you get us for that investment? And so we have to be able to talk about what that will be, because marketing, whether it's with a capital M on the upstream front, which is where we spend our time, or at the little m on the downstream front, where so many people spend their time, we don't do that work. They tend to get into measures that are not very meaningful to the leadership team. So getting the right measures is very important to them. And so if they can find a colleague or a collaborator or a partner to help them do that and be more successful, we don't typically run into too much of a challenge in that conversation, because they know they need help and they want help. They just don't always know what they need to do. But it's a big undertaking, and that's oftentimes the most daunting task. All right, Scott, we're getting into a little different direction, but that's all right. This is fun. Whether you're a startup or a larger and more established organization, revenue comes from customers. That's where it comes from. So when I'm working with a member of the C-suite and they tell me, and I ask them, let's say a CEO, what does success look like for you at the end of the coming year? And I might get a revenue number. It looks like X number of dollars in revenue, X amount of profit, blah, blah, blah. And I'm great, wonderful. Now, can you please tell me what percentage of that revenue is going to come from your current customers? Which ones? And what is it they're going to buy and why? And what percentage of that revenue is going to come from new customers? Which ones, what segments, and what are they going to buy and why, right? Now, that armed with that information, imagine what the product group or the R&D group or the implementation group or the sales group or the marketing group could do if they knew the answers to those questions. Right, so this whole question isn't about marketing, it's about your business. And then we can talk about your strategies. But now you have your entire team is locked in on what it is, what is success, right? So now we can start talking about, well, is that realistic that you think X number of new customers, or you're going to acquire X number of new customers? Let's say it's a segment you've never even been in. And is how highly competitive is that segment? It's very competitive, or there's no competition. All that's going to affect that number. So now you can have a real conversation about the number, not the revenue, the number, right? And then you can begin to have some other conversations about, well, how long a sale is that? How will that affect pricing? Are there things externally that might affect pricing? How will that affect your revenue number? Now we're having those kinds of conversations, all of which will ripple out into the rest of the conversation. Might even ripple out with, wow, we're going into this new segment and we've never been in that segment before. Do we have anybody in the organization with experience in that segment? If we don't have anyone in the organization with experience in that segment, should we be looking for that, or should we partner for that, right? All of that kind of, it sets up questions around strategy. So it's not just marketing, it's really how you're going to grow your company. That's one of the reasons we encourage a lot of customers to have customer advisory boards, right? Or to have quarterly business reviews, or to tier their customers. We have one of the things we recommend is tier your customers, and then look at your leadership team, your staff, which based on your tier 1 and tier 2 customers, who's your staff partner for that customer? Not your sales partner, not your sales account person, but your actual executive partner. If that's a really valuable customer, how frequently should that person be having a conversation with that customer to really find out what's going on? So one of the things I love about I had a person I worked for at Motorola, 11 of my 14 years, was remarkable. And I count him among one of my most important mentors. And one of the things he paid attention to was cardboard boxes. I know this sounds weird, but he paid attention to cardboard boxes because if cardboard box manufacturing was going down, the stuff that we sold into was going down, right? So what is it you should be looking at in terms of data? This goes back to data. What is an indicator of what's happening in your industry? You might not know, but your customers can start giving you some insight. And that's where boards and QBRs can be really helpful.
What is your thoughts of where this is a year from now in terms of your industry, your customers' industry? Where are we headed? And how do you think things are going to change?
Okay, so I'm sure you're having the same experience. You can't go to the gas station or the grocery store without a conversation about AI. So I was thinking we were going to have this conversation. I I was probably one of the first people that had a Chat GPT account. I've been around machine learning and AI a very long time because it's not a new thing. But the generative AI that we are all interfacing with is a relatively new thing. It's like bringing the web to the masses or the internet to the masses when people were sending email way back when, right? But then everybody could send email and people had access to the internet, but now everyone has access to the internet. And that's what's going on with AI. And that also means that we have to understand it's a tool and the tool is only as good as what we can do with it. So we're going to have to up our game. Right now, a lot of people think, oh, I'll just use the tool, it'll write my content for me, or I'll just use the tool and it'll make my video for me, or I'll just use the tool and it'll make my script for me, for my, for whatever I'm going to do. The key to any tool, to be successful with any tool, is to have clarity around why you are using it and what it is you're trying to do. And are you good enough to create it manually so that if you automate it with a tool, it will be as good or better than what you could have done manually? Does that make sense? So if you're
Does.
not, if you don't know, if you can't even, you don't understand the basic structure of writing, you're not going to know whether what you're getting from the tool is any good because you don't understand the basic structure of writing. It's like, I don't understand the basic structure of process mapping. Or what goes into a particular process, and now you ask the tool to create a process map, how will you even know that that process map is a good, viable process map if you've never mapped a process and you don't understand what that process entails? So I think in answer to your question, we're in very nascent stages of learning how to leverage this tool. We're going to all get better at it, and it's not going away. It's going to be here, and it's going to become and more integrated into everything we do. We're going to have some help, and we're going to have some help from our friends at Google. And I know you know Google far better than I do. And Google is going to help us because Google is going to decide in their algorithm what is going to be quality. So that we can pump out all we want, but in the end, the Google algorithm will say, that was not good quality. I can tell that was junk written by an AI, by someone who doesn't know what they're doing. And we're going to ding that content. So we are going to get help from Google to make sure we are not amateurs at the work we do. I know a lot of people are concerned that it's going to replace writers, editors, SEO experts, graphic designers, people like that. I know there's a lot of concern about that. I think that we're away from being replaced, but I think that every single person in those professions needs to understand how to use the tools to their advantage. If they're proficient at what they do, the tools should help them do even more and better and faster.
What do you advise your 17-year-old self to do?
Wow. I love that question. So let's see. I probably would taken one of my mentor's advice and gone and got my degrees in medical technology. I probably would have gone and gotten my degree in medical technology because that is a cool space. But when I was back in that period of time, I was thinking, all we have are x-rays. Why would I get a degree in medical technology? But look at what medical technology. But that is not the advice I would give your son. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. I think that there are periods of time where industries are huge waves. And if you can join that industry early in your career, it's monumental. I was really fortunate. I didn't even know I was joining a wave when I joined Motorola microcontroller business, that I was in the beginning of a huge technological wave in the semiconductor industry. Okay, not that semiconductors were new, but microcontrollers were, and it was a huge wave, and I had absolutely no idea that I had joined that. We are in that place in AI. Imagine if we were 10 years ago and we were in that place with cloud computing, or even 10 years earlier than that, right? There's a wave. I would get a job. I'd go and figure out what I need to have to get jobs inside AI companies and ride that wave for the next, 15, 20 years.